Hey, welcome to CA Uncensored, a very special edition. We have none other than my friend and one of the major stars of the WWE. Now he's like running the company, or partially running the company. Triple H, what's up, man?
How you doing, man?
Thanks
Hello.
so much. Look at that, you don't know your own
I'm already
strength.
knocking things over.
So I see your arm. Everybody knows about what happened with Brock.
Yeah, a little bit of a misunderstanding with Brock Lesnar, and we got a bit of an altercation, and he kind of did some damage to my arm here.
Yeah, and you're not the type of guy, I mean, to take to that very lightly. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some repercussions. Can you tell us about what the strategy is for your revenge? What are you plotting, man? I know you're up to something.
You know, I'm not necessarily plotting anything. This whole thing stemmed from a business misunderstanding between Brock and myself, and Brock and the WWE, actually. And he had some ridiculous demands that we weren't going to cave into, and when I told him so, he attacked me from behind. You know, I don't want to see Brock Lesnar fired. I don't want to see Brock Lesnar to run and hide. I want to be able to, there's a lot of things I want to say to Brock Lesnar, but I want to be able to say them to his face. So sooner or later he'll decide to show his face again, and when he does, we're going to have another discussion, and this one will be face to face instead of with my back turned.
Well, a couple of things. When somebody has their back to you and they take essentially a sucker shot, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, what is that? Does that piss you off that like he couldn't do it face to face?
Yeah, I mean, he waited until I turned and then he jumped me, and you know, it's typical for me. It's typical Brock Lesnar. Brock's complex kind of guy. He wants things his way. He wants everything to benefit Brock Lesnar, and when he doesn't, he's not afraid to take his ball and run home. So
so do you think he's intimidated by you?
You know, it could be a factor. I mean, there was a point in time when Brock and I were both in the WWE together, and you know, he went to go to another show. I was on Raw. He went to go to SmackDown, and we really never faced each other. I don't know if that's intimidation or if that's just circumstance, but you know, here we are years later, and coming in from different worlds and different angles. But if he wants to try his luck, I'm ready to go.
So his background is obviously wrestling. Then he got into the UFC. Well, he was obviously with you guys first, then went to the UFC. He tried to, you know, procure mixed martial arts and really kind of engrossed himself in mixed martial arts for a period of time, short period of time. And now he's back with, or was supposed to come back with you. Do you think he has an advantage because he was at the UFC, or do you train in?
Not necessarily. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, he's going to step in the ring, in a WWE ring, if he's going to do something with me, and if that happens, and you know, I think he's kind of ensured that maybe it will, if he's willing to step back in. So I'd love to do it, and if he thinks he has an advantage, great. I hope that he thinks he does.
Bring it.
Yeah, bring it. You know, I'm not ready right this second, but once I'm healed up, I'd love to take that test, because you know, there's a lot of tough guys in the world, and
he thinks he's the toughest.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
You know, what's interesting is that you know, I've known you now for years, and you remain in insane shape. What is your what's your regimen?
You know, I've always weight trained, although in the last few years I've really kind of changed my philosophy on that and gone from, you know, in the years past when you're younger, and you and I have talked about this, your diet doesn't need to be so strict. I could just go to the gym and just kind of train as a bodybuilder. But when you're just going in and bodybuilding training, you're kind of not necessarily hitting all the small connective things. And when you're an athlete, those are the things that really matter. So about 2 years ago, I started training with a guy, Joe DeFranco, and he's one of the premier strength and conditioning trainers in the country. And he has made just a world of difference in my career. Some of the stuff, you know, I could lift a lot of weights, but
what do you bench press?
Probably in the low 400s right now. Yeah, and that's the strongest I've been in years. You know, and that's from. It's funny. It's not really from training heavier in the bench press, it's from training all the other things
smaller muscles
that support these little exercises that he'll have me do with
no
like
weight.
2 pounds or something like that, and I'm shaking like a leaf doing them because
Right.
the little muscles are weak. And as they get stronger and they get stronger and in better condition, you can just in your bigger exercises, you can lift so much more and you can perform so much better. I mean, I wouldn't be afraid to say that at 42, I'm probably in better shape athletically than I was when I was 32.
And you also train a little bit in boxing. A little,
Yeah.
Is kickboxing as well? You do?
Yeah, I do some kickboxing, although I tend to like to work a little bit more with my fists. My guy's always trying to get me to do more kicks and knee strikes and stuff, and I tend to like to do a little bit more boxing. But yeah, it's something that I enjoy. I'm not a real big guy on, especially now that my wrestling career has slowed down and I'm focusing more on business. I'm not a guy that can walk for an hour on a treadmill or run on a treadmill for 30 minutes. I'd rather do mitt work for 30 minutes or heavy bag or speed bag or something like that and be more active in that way. It's for me, it's much more entertaining,
And what kind of comes to mind is so to stick on the Brock subject just for a little bit more. So here's a guy that goes into the UFC, right? How old is he?
I think Brock's in his mid-30s.
Mid-30s, all right.
Yeah.
Would that be something you would ever entertain?
No. It's a different world. I truly think that, Brock, for me, that was something that he was kind of custom built for. I think he, I've known him for a long time, and when he first started with us, I'd never seen a guy that size at near 300 pounds, but just lightning quick and fast. And his background in amateur wrestling really made him very well suited for MMA because he had such a structural background in takedowns and controlling guys on the ground. And then for him was just, I think, improving his striking and his submission work. But yeah, for me, I'm it's like the line in Gladiator. I'm an entertainer.
Right.
Right.
Well, I'm sure you would entertain many people if there was ever a match between you and Brock.
Well, we'll see if it ever happens. I think it'll be good.
I mean, because he obviously crossed the line. I mean,
he crossed the line.
And you're in
Vegas
Vegas with your wife,
yeah.
Stephanie McMahon, hanging out. Come to my show last night, Believe.
Yeah. Which was phenomenal, by the way.
Oh.
I really, I mean,
we'll quote you on that.
Yeah, it's something that again, I've known you for years since we had
my start.
Since your start in Times Square, and always been a fan, watched your show and all that, and we've kept in touch over the years. But this is the first time we've had a chance to come and see your Vegas show, and we were both blown away. I mean, it really is a phenomenal show.
Thank you very much.
It's fast-paced, it's exciting, it's funny, it's got a little bit of everything. It's really good.
Well, that's the thing. I saw you guys and I see your arm. I'm like, dude, like,
yeah,
wow. Like,
yeah.
You're here to Vegas and it's like, walking around with it's
job,
like you're
job
up.
hazard.
Yeah, you got to seek revenge, my friend. Seek revenge.
I'm on my way. It's just I got to heal up first,
So tell us, how did Triple H come about? The name.
Oh, the name.
Yeah.
It's funny, jump back to when I started in the WWE, back to like 94, 95, and it was so much more character driven. Our business was very character driven. You had to have a very distinctive character. You were, the big boss man as a cop or a fireman or something like that. Everybody had to have a very distinct gimmick, and I was brought in as the Greenwich, Connecticut blue blood snob called Hunter Hearst Helmsley. And as the business changed and we became much more of a reality based and a lot less character driven.
Right.
I mean, we're very character driven. That's what drives our business, but less cartoonish. You know,
it became more you.
Yeah, it just became me, but I just had time invested in the Hunter Hearst Helmsley name and didn't want to get rid of it. So everybody in the back called me Triple H. And that kind of nickname just stuck, and that's what we went with.
And how did you get your start, though? Like, how did you, because back then, we were talking about this in the car driving over to the studio. What's interesting with magic, wrestling, those were very guarded secrets.
Yes.
People kept them close to their heart. And they didn't share that. Like I had to go to the library in a card catalog to get a 50-year-old book on magic and try to figure out how that could apply to today.
Yeah.
Now they have the internet. You can just learn things and try them in 2 seconds. But how did you get your start?
Yeah, and it's same for us. You know, now you can go on the internet or you can look locally, and there's almost a guy in every city somewhere that would train somebody, whether he's good or not, to become a you know, sports entertainer, the WWE star, professional wrestler, whatever you want to call it. At that time, when I was trying to do it, nobody gave that information up. If you were in the business, it was a very heavily guarded thing, and nobody really talked about training and how to go about doing it. So it was a difficult thing to do. And you know, for me, was something that I was a huge fan from the time I was probably 5 years old, and I wanted to get into it. But how do you start? You know, and I got lucky when I was about 18. I met a guy named Ted Arcidi, who was a power lifter that got into professional wrestling, and he tried to steer me clear of the business. He wasn't a big fan of the travel, but it was something I just wanted to do, and I finally badgered him into giving me some names, and I ended up with Killer Kowalski, who was a very famous old wrestler from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and he started training me, and you know, it was one of those things. I remember saying at the time, after my first day there, that it was the only thing I'd ever done in my life that I did for the first time that I felt absolutely at home doing. Like I felt like I was supposed to do that.
Well, that's what it's in your blood.
Yeah, yeah.
What advice would you give to some of the people that are watching right now that might want to get into wrestling?
Well,
don't do it, right?
No, I wouldn't say that, because, you know, for me,
it's hard, right?
It's been awesome, and yeah, but you have to be very dedicated. The one thing I like about this business, it's kind of, the more work you put into it, the more you can get out of it, you know. But I would stress, and I know this will sound cliche, but education first. I just think that, you know, there's very few opportunities for guys trying to break into our business. There's very few big main event slots. So there's a lot of guys that won't make it, and a lot of guys that'll do okay. There's very few guys that'll make it big. So you got to have an education, and even if you do make it, that education
will help you.
Yeah, my father-in-law Vince McMahon has a saying about the guys that are the best guys in this business are the smartest guys, because they can work with it from a business standpoint. You can't be stupid in making.
They know how to maximize the opportunity on every platform.
Exactly.
And speaking of which, what is a family barbecue like with the McMahons? You have your wife Stephanie.
Well,
you have Mr. and Mrs. McMahon.
Yeah, let me just say that a barbecue at my house usually starts out with myself and my wife and the kids, and as soon as I start the grill up, my father-in-law shows up. He has this innate ability to smell that I am cooking and show up at my house unannounced. So no matter when we are cooking in the summertime, especially, we always buy extra food, because sure as anything, he's going to show up in the middle of the barbecue.
And I bet you he can eat.
And he can eat, yes. It's one of the things he prides himself on. But it's, you know, it's probably no different than any other family. I mean, it's we don't really talk that much about business when we're all together. We're playing with the kids, we're having a good time, swimming in the pool,
when you're home,
the lake, whatever. Yeah, when we're home, and we're just like everybody else, except for the phone rings now and then, and it's you know, it's a work situation, and we deal with it and move on. But it's really good. The one thing that works for both my wife and myself, we're both very close. I'm very close to my family. She's very close to hers, and they've all become very close with each other. So we spend a lot of time. We really don't do anything outside of, I work, train, and spend time with my family, and that's pretty much it.
And come to Vegas.
And come to Vegas
once
now
a
and
year.
then. Yeah. But you know, that to me, all the money and all the other stuff, the fame, all those other things are just ancillary things. It's stuff that's important in your life, and you know this, we've talked about it, is your family. You know, the people that you care about and that are around you, your family that's around you. At the end of the day, that's really what's important. All the other money and all that other stuff, it's just comfort, really. And if that goes away, if you still have your family and the people that are close to you, you're still a rich man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You bring, I mean, the whole organization brings so much, you know, joy and excitement and entertainment to so many millions of people around the world. What has been like the craziest story that has ever happened, whether in the ring, maybe at your hotel, something happened with the fan, like something nuts?
I just think for me, like this was years ago, and it was one of the first times that I realized the global reach of what we did. Is I was in India, and we had gone over to India. First time I went over there, and we'd been there for a couple of days, and this guy told us, obviously there weren't very many gyms there at the time, and this guy told us he knew of a gym, and it was, you know, not far away, and we could walk there, and he would bring us there. The guy said we could work out, and we left to go. And as we were walking, just a couple of us walking down these dirt roads, and there were all these mud huts on the side, like mud huts with grass thatched roofs and stuff like that. And these kids started seeing us in the street and started yelling our names and coming out. And by the time we walked probably the half mile that it was to where this guy at a gym, there was probably a couple thousand people following us, all yelling our names. And, you know, for me, that was a very mind-blowing experience.
Probably surreal.
Yeah, and like, because I remember asking at the time, like, how do they even know who we are? They clearly don't have TVs. And the guy said, they do. They all, you know, they know. And to see that reaction on people in the, you know, in the farthest reaches of the world, it was amazing to me. So that's, you know, we do, and what we do is in the WWE, as we are saying in our company, is what we do every day is put smiles on people's faces, and we truly do on a global level.
And you do so much for charity. I know Make-A-Wish Foundation. People don't realize I'm involved with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, but these guys, this organization has done and continues to do so much for kids.
Yeah, that's a big passion for us, is anything to do with kids. We're really big with the military. But especially the kids. Make-A-Wish for us is huge. John Cena is coming up on his 300th wish, is probably the most of any celebrity anywhere
It's amazing.
in the world. We also have something that we're very strong and passionate about is we have something called our Be a Star campaign, and that's it's our anti-bullying campaign.
That's awesome.
For kids, which is such a huge thing right now with cyberbullying and
it's
everything.
Out of control.
Yeah, and Be a Star for us is it's Be a Star, show tolerance and respect star. We go to schools all around the country and speak on it and try to help kids get through it. It's a terrible thing. It needs to stop.
Did you ever think 20 years ago that you would be this icon in wrestling?
No, you know,
What's it like?
Well, you're asking me. I just came from your massive mansion in the hills overlooking Las Vegas. Decked out all this stuff.
You right now.
And we rode here in your Mercedes Phantom, and you're asking me what's it like to make it. You know,
no, but I mean,
here's something I think from you and I. This is where you and I are very similar. I didn't get in this to be famous. I didn't get in this for money. I didn't get in it for fame. I did get in it to meet my hot wife, but I didn't.
Who's right over there.
Yeah,
hi, Stephanie.
But she didn't want to be interviewed. I didn't get in it for any of that. I got in it because I love what I do. I got in it because one day I was sitting home with my dad, and he turned the TV on, and Chief Jay Strongbow was wrestling, and it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And from that day on, that's what I wanted to do, and I was able to do it. You're the same way, you know. You saw magic, and that's all you wanted to do. And every day you went to school, and you came home, and you know, school was just something to get through, so you could go do your magic, right? And you were obsessed with it, and still to this day, with all the business and everything else, magic is really what you do, and all the other stuff just came along with it.
Exactly.
And it's the same for me. That level of success, I could have never dreamed it, but it all just came along with. I think when you're passionate and love what you do and put everything into it, your heart, your soul, everything, where that's what you are, then you're successful at it, you know.
Crazy question: Hulk Hogan or the real Hulk?
I got to go with the real Hulk. I've been in the ring with Hulk Hogan, the real Hulk. You know, the green big giant monster. That would be the ultimate matchup, I think.
And tell us about like maybe one of the craziest matches that in your career that you had that, you know, that just stands out in your mind for a specific reason.
I think, you know,
maybe obvious or not obvious.
It's funny for me. There would have been some others I would have picked a little while ago, but just recently, at this year's WrestleMania from Miami, WrestleMania 28 from Miami, I wrestled The Undertaker in a return match in Hell in a Cell, and it was dubbed the end of an era. And if you go back, you know, 10, 15 years ago in our business, there was something called the Attitude Era that was considered by a lot of people one of the greatest eras in our business. And all those guys kind of went away, whether it's injuries or retirement or whatever it was. Everybody kind of went on their way and passed along. And what was left out of that was myself and The Undertaker. We were the two sole survivors of that era. And we called it the end of an era match because it was probably the last time that you'll ever see two guys from that era wrestling each other at that level. And Shawn Michaels was a special referee, and the match, you know, turned out to be phenomenal. It was inside Hell in a Cell, and it was, you know, brutal and wonderful for our business. But it was very special to myself, to Shawn, and to The Undertaker, as just, you know, three guys that have been through a lot of wars, but have, you know, been through a lot of things together. And
the whole evolution.
Yeah. We've seen the business from down to the incredible heights that it became, and all the way through. And I think we really look at each other as not only competitors and friends, but as truly as brothers in the ring and brothers in life, and the three of us have a special bond. So this year's WrestleMania for me was something special.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Any ever embarrassing moments or least favorite match that you had, like anything that happened that you're like, oh my God?
Well, I wrestled Shawn Michaels one time on pay-per-view, and he did a spot called a crucifix into a sunset flip, and when he did, he hooked my trunks and completely pulled my junk out on on pay-per-view. Luckily, they were on a back camera shot live, so nobody saw it. But it was a very, very quick like recovery of trying to put my stuff away and continue to to perform. But things like that, I've seen a lot of embarrassing things over the years with guys, from accidents in the ring.
Give us one. Give us something more. I know people would love to, because this is the stuff that no one gets to hear, right?
All right, I'll give a funny one that happened on live TV. I don't know that anybody knows it or not. Jerry Lawler will kill me for saying this, but one time on Live Rod, Jerry Lawler had a little bit of a bowel incident while he was wrestling, and he had on white singlet with white long trunks. And as he was wrestling partway through the match, we're watching the monitor backstage, like, Jerry, you got something on his trunks. Something on his trunks is growing exponentially by the moment, and Jerry had a little poop incident that...
Really?
Yeah, you know, it's when you're getting slammed off the top rope sometimes, things happen.
I'm sure.
You know. Yeah.
And how did that, when he discovered that, or he knew it?
Yeah. Luckily, thankfully, the match was over before anything came out. But yeah, he was quite embarrassed, and you know, head to the back. The match stunk, literally.
If you didn't do wrestling, what do you think you would have done?
Well, maybe I'd be a magician.
You know, You'd be the biggest.
That would be my thing. You'd be the world's greatest magician. I'm just the world's biggest magician.
No,
Not very good, but I'm big. You know. You know, I don't know. It's funny for me. I think in some way I would have had to be in some type of entertainment. I don't know if I would have tried to do TV or movies or music or something, but entertainment, there's just something to me about
excitement.
Yeah, being in front of a crowd and you know, whether it's what you do, what we do, to be able to manipulate that crowd and have them in the palm of your hands and entertain them. And you know, exactly what we do is watch a smile come on a kid's face, or somebody be entertained by what you do, and they want to pay their money to see you, you know, entertain them and get them to forget about everything they have going on in their life for an hour or something like that.
Escapism.
You know, to me, that's the ultimate thing I don't know.
I got to tell you a quick story that really inspired me, and it was directly related to wrestling. I was struggling at the time. It was in the 90s, and I put together a little 12-minute Halloween act that I was doing at Madison Square Garden at the time. I had to do 600 shows in about 11 or 12 days. Wow. But we were in kind of the area where they would have the car shows. We weren't in the garden, if you will. Yeah. And coincidentally, during that time, WWE had a show there. And I remember kind of peeking my head in, and because I used to watch it on television as a kid growing up, and it just blew my mind. The energy, the excitement, the controlled chaos. Yeah. And it just lit a fire, you know, in my body that I was like, I got to meet Mr. McMahon. If I could just meet Mr. McMahon or Mrs. McMahon, you know, and they see what I'm trying to do, you know, maybe they'll invest in me or they'll produce me or something like that. And it was a few years later that, lo and behold, the restaurant that kind of had like an entertainment complex on Broadway and 43rd, and I didn't meet them, I was doing it through somebody, but I had the room there. It was a little tiny room, and I put a little show called Mind Freak. And it was because indirectly they gave me that opportunity in that space, and then later meeting them and then seeing my vision and kind of supporting me, that I've acquired what you saw today. And I just want to say to Mr. and Mrs. McMahon, thank you sincerely for giving me that opportunity, because without that opportunity, my life could have turned out very, very differently. And I just sincerely, you know, want to thank Stephanie that's over there. She's always been such a proponent, always so sweet. And you, I remember doing magic for you at the restaurant.
Yeah, it's funny. I tell stories about it all the time, two different stories. One was you walking in and freaking us all out. We were at a table eating, getting ready to do an event there, and you were going to do your show downstairs, and you came in, and we were all saying hello, and you had just walked in from outside and leaned over the table. So I think somebody might have said, Chris, do a trick for us. And you leaned over the table, and without touching anything, you like twisted this fork all up and bent it all and like blew all our minds, and then just left and went downstairs. We were all freaked out and blown away.
Yeah, I got to teach you that, because when you're fighting Brock, if you fight him, you don't have to touch him.
Yeah, I just bend
screw with him mentally.
Yeah, I need to learn that. Another time I recall you specifically was messing with Chris Jericho, was sitting in a chair, and you were doing a trick right in front of Chris. I wanted to kind of embarrass
him.
Yeah.
But in an entertaining way.
Yeah, and you were doing this magic trick right in front of him that he could not for the life of him figure out how you were doing, and we could clearly see.
Yeah, I was doing it for you guys, really.
Yeah, you were kind of doing it for us, and we were seeing exactly what you were doing, but he could not figure. He was completely blown away by it. And we were all laughing because we could clearly see that it wasn't magic. You were, you know, creating an illusion, and it was awesome to see how good you were at that. And it's funny. I remember seeing you do that at that time and seeing your show, and I remember thinking you were so different because you crossed what I don't want to say what we did, but the entertainment aspect. Mm-hmm. You weren't a bow tie and a top hat with a rabbit coming out of the top hat. You were cutting edge and freaky and all those things. You made magic so cool. We were all blown away by you, and on how cool you were, and two, and how great the magic was. But you created something totally new out of all of that, like a standard, you know, kind of, this is what magic is, and you went in a completely different way.
Well, it's what you guys did with wrestling.
In a way, yeah.
That's what you did with wrestling, and that inspired me, because watching that, you know, made me think that I have to make it original, and do something with it that people haven't seen, and keep it current, and keep it provocative, and keep it entertaining, and everything that you guys are about. And I think that's why we probably share a lot of the same demographics. Because we bring a form of entertainment that connects to people and excites people and entertains them.
100% agree.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you, man.
I wish you'd come on camera, but it's okay. You want to come on camera and say hello or no? For a second?
Nah, she's
No?
not
All
gonna do
right,
it.
it's okay.
Good.
Well,
I love you, Chris.
I love you too. Thank you so much for coming by. I
Man.
appreciate it. Have a great time tonight.
Thank you very much.
And I'll see you soon.
Thank you very much.
And who knows what you'll see from, you know, WWE, Chris Angel. You never know. It's a natural combination.
It is.
Take care. See you next time. CA Uncensored.